All right. So here we are in the series of Her Stories, 100 Women's Voices. I'm Dr. Mary Lou Marcillo, and I am with one of my colleagues, the dear Dr. Beth Adubato, who will be speaking with us today about her story. So before I start, I actually want to explain what motivated me to do this series. And there were two reasons. One was a couple of weeks ago, there was an op-ed in the Wall Street Journal chiding Dr. Jill Biden that she should not use her professional title of doctor because she was not a medical doctor. And secondly, the most important role she will serve is as First Lady or wife to Joe Biden, and therefore she should just be called First Lady or Mrs. Joe Biden. And that really upset me because I realized, I think as most women, that even in 2021, we still have a system of patriarchy in place that strongly holds women back, that tries to silence women. And oftentimes, really, there are many barriers that encumber women, of whether they're white or women of color, to prevent them from accessing education, wealth, home ownership, and any number of things. The second reason that I made the decision to do this series was my mother passed away about 10 years ago. And it's only in the last 2 years that I've really begun to understand who my mother was as a woman, because what I saw of her was truly that of a mother. I never explored who she was as a woman in her 20s and her 30s and her 40s and so forth. So I didn't quite understand how she got to be the mother that she became. And obviously, she was much more multifaceted than what I saw on the outside. And for that reason, I wanted to honor my mother's memory by giving voice to other women to share their stories in the same way that I had wished I had asked my mother these questions. So without further ado, I'm going to bring my colleague and dear friend, Dr. Beth Adubato, who I'm really happy has conceded to doing this interview with me. Beth, good morning. How are you?
I'm okay. How are you?
It's been a tumultuous 24 hours, but I'm doing okay. We're doing our best. We're hopeful for a better future, that's for sure.
Yep.
So let me ask you this, Beth. Where did you grow up and what was that like?
I grew up in West Orange, New Jersey, and I think it was great growing up there because when I look back on it now, because we had a good public school education, and it was a pretty, it wasn't really diverse by race, but it was definitely diverse ethnically. So that was, I think, kind of interesting. Everybody I knew was either Italian or Irish or Jewish. It was very much like everyone's grandparents had come over here from a different country and sort of instilled in people, well, if you work hard and you get an education, then you can make it in America. So it definitely was that kind of interesting competitive spirit. And then I went to a Catholic high school in Orange, which definitely was really diverse. And that was kind of fun for me. I was the only white girl on the track team.
Wow.
And yeah, that was really, it was so fun. There were 11 girls on the team. And it was kind of interesting for them because they would ask me all these questions about what it's like to be white. And it was really, and also I had really, really long hair when I was in high school, like down to my butt. And it was very blonde. And when I used to go to the track meets, people would cheer for me because I was the only white person out there. And they'd be like, come on, white girl, come on, white girl. So that was really interesting to me and great, so I feel like my childhood was wonderful. Like I really do. I mean, my parents got divorced. That was not so great. But my dad actually did a lot. He let us stay in our house. Like he did enough so that we stayed in our house. We were able to do that. The part that really kind of threw me was when I went away to college. So I come from this town where you believe that everyone can make it. I did not, I mean, I did see white privilege when I was growing up. I'm not going to lie. I saw it. Even though I was in a town that was, I must say, it's not predominantly white, but it's a very mixed town. West Orange is a big, big town.
And it's definitely changed over the years.
It definitely has changed over the years since I was in school there.
Right.
But I did notice, and I tell my students this, I did notice that police treated white kids differently. Like that was it was a very obvious thing. You know, in West Orange, if white kids were up by the Carvel, because I worked McDonald's in high school, and everyone used to hang around in the parking lot between the McDonald's and the Carvel. And if you saw white kids, if they got caught by the police with pot, the police just took it. They didn't do anything to those kids. You know, they didn't call them, they didn't arrest them or anything. Then if I were hanging out with my Catholic school friends down in Orange, and you could see that the police officers definitely treated the black kids differently. They didn't let them go. They would, you know, sort of criminalize them, even if they didn't actually arrest them, but they would put them in the back of the car and treat them like garbage. And it was stunning. It was stunning to observe this. You know, right. I wasn't a criminologist back then, but it was definitely unfair. Right. So I did see a lot of unfairness in that way. But then I went to a college where everybody was white and everybody was rich and everybody was like waspy and old money. And I didn't even know old money existed. Like I didn't even know about it.
That's
it was
so funny. Where did you go, Beth?
I went to the College of William and Mary.
Oh.
And I had always wanted to go there. When I was in third grade, my parents, we took a drive down to Colonial Williamsburg, and I discovered that Thomas Jefferson and I have the same birthday. So I said in third grade, I want to go to William and Mary because I have the same birthday as Thomas Jefferson. This is a very stupid reason to pick your college, but also it's a good school. So that's why, you know, it's great. And it was not an expensive school. So when I got to William and Mary, that's when my life really changed, because the first thing that happened was somebody said to me, and I was walking across campus. First of all, everybody says hi to each other. They go, hi y'all, hi y'all, even if you're one person. So this person said to me, hi y'all, are you a freshman? And I said, yes. Where are you from? And I said, New Jersey. And she said, are you Christian? Which was a weird question to me. And I said, yeah. And she said, well, where do you go to church? And I said, well, I'm going to go to St. Bede's Church. And then she stopped and she said, St. Bede's? Well, that's a Catholic church. You're not a Christian.
Oh.
Yes. Welcome.
That's funny as heck. I thought we were all Christians.
Yep. Yeah. So that is part of the reason why when I was at William and Mary, it's not, I don't know how it happened, but I ended up majoring in religion at William and Mary. And I minored in theater.
Well, you come from a big family of performers too, so.
Yes, exactly. So there's always been that. And then the truth is I always studied ballet. My whole childhood, I studied ballet.
Okay.
So William and Mary was an important, very important time in my life and really formed the rest of my life. And I'll tell you what happened. So I was there for, I guess, a year. Well, it was my second semester there, my spring semester there. And I didn't have a lot of friends. I mean, it was very weird for me there. Like socially, I just didn't get it. I thought we were going to school to be strong women who got our degrees, and I was going to go to law school and run for office and do all this stuff. And a lot of other women at the school were really pushed down. You know, these Southern girls, they don't express themselves, even if they're very, very smart. They don't talk in class. I had a professor ask me, why are you the only one who talks in class? I had a guy say to me, you know, Beth, you're half nice and half yankified. So I had my little group of friends, and it was my second semester, and it was the day before Valentine's Day, and I went to a party at a frat house with my female friends, and I heard a guy behind me saying, "Yeah, wait till you see the front." And then I heard another guy say, "Hey, leave her alone. That's my friend Beth from New Jersey." So then I realized they're talking about me. And I didn't know what they were saying, but wait till you see the front. I really thought, that doesn't sound right. And I said to my friends, I'm leaving. I'm leaving this party. So it gets much worse from here.
Mhm.
So, but I left, and we went. William and Mary is a big kind of rural campus on the edge of the colonial town. And so we went pretty far away over to the pub. And when we got there, one of the guys in that group was already at the pub. And I ignored him at the front door, and I went into the pub with my friends. And in Virginia at the time, you could drink beer when you were 18, but you couldn't have alcohol or wine. So I don't drink beer, or I didn't back then. So I went into the pub with my friends. My friends had like a couple pitchers of beer. And the sort of ringleader of this group of guys, came over to my table, and I knew who he was because he was a year ahead of me, and he was the star of the lacrosse team. He worked in town at a cheese shop, and every girl knew who he was because he was really good looking.
Oh boy.
He was a really good looking guy.
Mhm.
And he came over to my table and said, look, I just want to apologize for my friends from before. Like, they're a bunch of assholes. Am I allowed to say asshole? So, and just like for a second, because it was the day before Valentine's Day, and lots of girls were thinking like, oh, maybe I can meet a boyfriend by tomorrow.
Right.
And I was thinking like, wow, this guy's so popular and he's so good looking, and he's talking to me right now, but I don't like this. Like, there was just something telling me I don't like this. And he said, I said, you know what? I'm going back to my dorm.
So your instincts were telling you
My
something.
instincts were telling me something was wrong. And I said, I'm going back to my dorm. And my friend Judy said, I'm going to go back with you. And then he said to me, can I walk you home? And again, I thought, oh, wow, cool guy asking me. And I said, no, thank you. So we went back to our dorm, which was ironically called Jefferson Hall.
Mhm.
And Judy and I were in my room for enough time that we had popcorn and we made tea.
Mhm.
So popcorn, tea, a little chit chat. And it's still Friday night. Now it's like maybe 10:30 at night. And there's nobody else in the dorm because everybody's out. And my roommate was the RA on the hall, but she was away for the weekend. So because she was the RA, we used to leave our door open, like our door to our room, but the dorms were locked with a card key.
Right.
So anyway, Judy left, and within maybe 2 minutes, my door opened and there was the guy.
Oh,
And he came into my room, and he like, I was scared. I was like, like, first of all, I didn't even know he knew my name.
Mhm.
And then I was like, what are you doing? And he went over to my stereo and put an album, because it was the 80s, and put an album on. And I was just sort of scared, and I was just kind of sitting there, and he sexually assaulted me. And he then fell asleep on my roommate's bed. And this was before we even had the concept of like acquaintance rape, or and I sat on the floor and cried for a while, and I thought, I don't know what's going on here. This is, like, I never knew anyone like this in New Jersey. Like, I never knew boys like this that you couldn't just say no to,
Right.
because I kept saying no.
Right.
And he was about 265 pounds, 6'2". So I actually did a stupid thing. I took a shower. I mean, I know this now because now I've been a rape care, advocate. But at the time, I took a shower and then I called my friend.
I did the same thing, Beth.
Really? You did the same
Yeah.
thing.
I was 14.
You were 14. Oh my God. I'm so sorry. We don't know what to do. I mean, we don't know what to do.
And I blamed myself. So.
Yep. Me too. I mean, when I look back on it now, I think, I wish I could talk to that girl. But I called my friend Maria, who was a year ahead of me, who was from Richmond. And I said, Maria, can we go to your house?
Mm-hmm.
And so we took the bus to Richmond. And on the bus, I said, Maria, I think I was raped. Unfortunately, Maria told her older brother, who was in the same fraternity as this guy. So so when we got back to campus on Sunday, my plan was to call the campus police and report this. When I got back to my room, my roommate was back and she said, Beth, this guy he's been trying to talk to you. She said, don't go near that guy. He's a really bad guy. And I said, yes, Jeannie, I know. Anyway, so the cut forward, the school did nothing. And
now, what year was this? Was this the 80s, 90s? 90s?
No, 81.
Okay.
And the only thing the school did they let me have a free phone call to my mother. So they did nothing. There was no investigation, because if you just investigated it for a second, you would know that I wasn't on a date with this guy, right, no matter what they thought back there in Virginia. Right. I went to the town of Williamsburg. They did nothing. So I'm just going to cut forward a little bit in time to the Obama administration, because in 2009, the Obama administration, through Joe Biden, gave out a letter called a Dear Colleague letter to all the presidents of all the universities in the United States of America, and said from now on, Title IX is going to be used to also, one of the other things it's going to be used to do is to make sure that all allegations of sexual assault are investigated. Not that every guy is going to be found guilty, but that there's going to be an investigation. Right. And I was the keynote speaker at the Department of Justice. And I told my full story, like the whole story. And I remember and Joe Biden was there, and the Secretary of Education, and the presidents and the provosts who were in that room. I remember there was no movement. There was no movement when I told my story. And that night there was a cocktail party, and people said to me, what happened to you was a crime. It was a crime. That's it. It was a crime, and it should have been prosecuted as a crime. And I was so proud of our country that we were finally dealing with this issue, and that we were going to make sure that every other person's accusal would at least see the light of day. And I thought, wow, we really, and also I never even knew there was an office on violence against women, but it was started during the Obama administration. And Joe Biden was ahead of it. And when DeVos became the Secretary of Education, she rolled this back. So I'm just, anyway, what happened to me really shaped the rest of my life. And I ended up quitting college in the middle of my senior year, because I was so intimidated at school. Because I had reported this boy, the star of the lacrosse team, everybody hated me. And
Well,
his
and that's
lacrosse.
usually the case, right? So victimize the victim, right?
Exactly. I mean, everybody thought, well, she's just a Yankee and a loudmouth.
For it, she was probably going after him. She got what she deserved. All of those things, because that's often the rhetoric, right, for victims, which is why so often victims keep silent, whether it's a male victim or a female victim. They just keep silent because their fear of retribution, the fear of being ostracized, the fear of just being marginalized even further. I mean, you can't live in that isolation. That's so harmful mentally for your well-being.
Yeah. I mean, I moved off campus, but it was too hard. I hated being on campus. And I also didn't tell my father what happened because I thought my father will kill him.
Right.
And then my father will go to prison. So I quit school, and everyone in my family was mad at me because they were like, oh, you're the straight A student who's going to be this and that, and now you're just like a quitter. So I was so mad at myself through my 20s. I was so mad at myself through my 20s. And
that's funny that you say that, Beth. I actually hated myself. I really hated myself for, quote unquote, having allowed that.
Yeah. So unbelievable.
It is. But here we are. Both of us survived these terrible things that happened to us, and look at where we are today, right? So let's push forward, because we don't have too much more time. But how did you end up? First of all, you're an actress, you're an author, and a criminologist. I mean, that's incredible, because clearly you quit school, but you had to have gone back. You have a PhD.
I did. I went back to school when my daughter was just 3. And I did 2 years. I transferred to Rutgers. They made me do 96 credits, even though I had already done 3 years at William and Mary.
Wow.
And I did 96 credits in under 2 years, and I got a 3.895 GPA with a baby. So when my students complain, like, I have a lot of work to do, I'm like, you know what? I don't want to hear it, because I was also a single mom at the time too. Wow. So I'm like, no. Right. And I tell them that, and they're like, okay, I'll do my homework. Right. But so then, and then I went into, after I graduated from my undergraduate degree, I went into news because my acting career wasn't going that well. So I thought, well, at least there's a formula for news. Plus, I enjoy writing. So I liked that whole thing where you write your own and you get to be on camera. And that's eventually how I ended up going back to graduate school for criminology, because all of, obviously what happened to me influenced my life. Absolutely. And then I thought, well, this would be a good area of expertise. I actually asked for a scholarship at Rutgers for graduate school. They gave it to me. I didn't realize that you don't get a scholarship for a master's. So I was in the PhD program and didn't realize it. And I was like, how am I going to get a PhD, work at News 12 New Jersey, and raise my daughter? How am I going to do all of this? But I did. So, because that's what we women do.
Right. Well, and the thing is, if you start to think about all the things you have to do, it gets overwhelming. If you just do it, then somehow you do it, right? But it's when you think about, oh my God, I got to do this, I got to do that. Then it's like, I can't do all of this. So the thing is not to think about all the things you have to do, just do it.
Just do it. Exactly. Right. Just do it.
Amazing. So, I mean, I am really grateful that you're my colleague, and you have also,
I'm for you too. I'm grateful for you too.
In addition to all these other things, you also have a nonprofit organization, and I sit on that board, which is the Linda organization. So right. Tell me what the purpose of the Linda organization is.
Okay, so I'll do the fast version of how this all started. I became a rape care advocate in around the same time when we did the Title IX thing. And you are on call. Essex County, New Jersey is one of 21 counties in the state and has 25% of all the rapes.
Oh boy.
And you know what makes me really mad? So everybody goes, oh, that's because Newark is there. No, that's not. It's not because Newark. It's so, it's so racist.
It is.
No,
Of course it's racist.
Of course it is, right? No, it's because there are so many colleges there. That's what it is, because people are mostly victimized by people of their own race. So don't think that this is like, oh, yes, it's because people of color live there. Nope, that's not it. And by the way, the guy who raped me was a white guy. So, of course. So, anyway, as a rape care advocate, we used to bring, when we were called out to the hospital, we would bring a bag full of things for women, like sweatpants, underwear, because the police take your clothes.
Right.
Things, brush their teeth, things, all these things we had in our bags. Okay, so then when I was doing, researching a book about women who have been incarcerated, I started meeting with women who were in halfway houses. And I know that they, like, you're not supposed to really pay people when you're doing interviews because it, as a researcher, it's not a, exactly. But I would give them something for their time. So I would bring a little bag of things that I know they wouldn't be able to afford, like hand cream and a Starbucks gift certificate and things like that. And then I started to realize that women who are coming out of prison often, they have no cosmetics or anything to pull themselves together for a job interview. And I know there's Dress for Success, which is a great program, right, and helps people get clothing. So I thought, well, let's go for the other stuff. Let's get the cosmetics. Let's get the toiletries. And then because I had been a news reporter in New Jersey, I had a pretty big Rolodex of different groups and different halfway houses and homeless people and all this stuff. And I put these groups together and we started collecting cosmetics and toiletries, and it grew because then we found out, well, women have children and they can't afford diapers. And all of these things started to
all these needs that are not being met.
All these needs, like food stamps, you can't use to pay for paper products, like paper towels and things like that. What kind of a law is that? And cleaning products. So we also we collect a lot of that. And what's really striking is New Jersey is one of the wealthiest states in a wealthy country. We are the second wealthiest state to Connecticut. Sometimes we're number one. We flip it up, right? So here we are in North Jersey and in a wealthy state, in the wealthiest, like one of the wealthiest countries in the world. And the need is incredible because women are forgotten. We are forgotten. We are a forgotten part of the criminal justice system.
Absolutely. I mean, but that's always the case in general, right? I mean,
absolutely.
I mean, if women who are just trying to get educated are forgotten, what about women who have been incarcerated? Yeah, of course this is going to be worse for them. I mean, that's just simple, But I commend you because you've taken what happened to you and did not allow it to stop you, right? It fueled this desire to do so many things and so many great things, not just for yourself, but also for other women. So my last question, Beth, the last important question is, what advice would you give to a 20-year-old woman who's on the cusp of trying to figure out what to do with her life?
All right, that's an excellent question. So I'm just going to I have a student who graduated from St. Peter's 2 years ago. She was the president of the Honor Society, poli-sci, criminal justice double major, just like the most amazing young woman. And there was a lot of pressure on her and her family, especially from the Latino side of her family that were so like, you're going to be the lawyer because you are so smart and you are going to represent our family. And she got into law school and she said, I was there it was this past summer. She got into the law school. She started the orientation and she said, this is not for me. And her family is so mad at her for changing her mind. And she quit. And she said, Professor, I want to go and study for social work. And I'm not going to make the kind of money that my family expects me to make because they're like, you're the smartest one in our family. And so I'm now using her as an example to other students. First of all, find what you love and do it. But don't think that you have all the answers at 20. Just get yourself on a path that keeps you open for the opportunities that might come along. And as you develop, when you find out what you really want to do. And
Right.
I said to this girl, besides, you're going to run the Linda organization someday after you get your MSW. Come back, because
Right.
she's amazing. But, you know, for me and for all the female students, I just say, look, education is the key. That's it. Just get as much education as you can, and don't ever think that you can depend on anyone. Don't ever think that, you know, any of these fairy tales are going to come true. You have a great life and you meet someone and you fall in love, good for you. But no, take care of yourself, give yourself all the options possible, and education is the key to that. And don't be mad at yourself if something happens along the way that changes your course. Don't waste your time being mad at yourself like you and I did.
It's true. What a horrible thing for us to do to ourselves.
Yep.
All right, Beth. Well, thank you so much. Really, I think, you know, these types of stories, as difficult as they are for us to tell, are very significant for other women to hear, right? Because so often we really do blame ourselves.
Yeah.
Part of that is what society has thrust upon us.
Yep.
But we don't have to be victims. We don't have to remain victims.
Right.
And the end of the day is what you make of it, right?
Right.
You could let it fuel the fire for justice. Let it fuel the fire for your freedom, for your ability to be successful.
Yeah.
Thanks, Beth.